we're down on the bottom looking at a ship, or a shipwreck, what we're doing is not just getting an impression. We're taking exact, detailed measurements that we can then match up with a historical record. Measuring the tanks proved that they were exactly the right size for a motor vessel like Malahat. In fact, they matched identically. Documenting the ship meant not just measuring one set of features like the tanks, it meant moving along the entire length of the wreck, mapping, documenting each feature that we found. Bit by bit, piece by piece, we gathered the details that we need to come to a conclusion. The evidence that suggested this was Malahat boiled down to the fact that this wreck was a wooden auxiliary schooner as long as Malahat, and we could tell that from the length of the wreckage from the stern at the struts to the bow, where we found a hawse pipe where the anchor chain would have passed out of the hull. The chain plates, which showed that this had been a 5-masted vessel, and the spacing of the chain plates that showed that the rig was that of a schooner. The other measurements showed how large the timbers had been, and these measurements, like those of the struts and the tanks, matched the surviving plans. All of this evidence, collected systematically and scientifically, gave us a real sense that if this wasn't Malahat, it was one of her sister ships.
Jacques and I have, been conferring. It looks like Malahat.
So, given what you've seen on the bottom today, is there anything that indicates that this is potentially one of those steamer class of vessels that were built concurrently in the United States, those wooden vessels?
Definitely not, John. We've got clear length that's reaches what Jacques?
74 meters.
74 meters. And the frames are huge. Iron fastened, big softwood construction, auxiliary motor sailor, looks like a schooner rig. Everything I'm seeing, you're seeing.
We've got a vessel that is of the right length, right dimensions, obviously some sort of auxiliary powered vessel. 5 chain plates, just 5 masts.
Everything we're seeing on the bottom sure looks like one of those Mabel Brown class Canadian built motor sailing vessels from the First World War. This looks like Malahat. There's nothing that has a name on it down there. Though, the only thing that'll conclusively nail it is something in the archives. But if we don't find that, I still feel, somehow that's the Malahat sitting down there.
So what's the next logical step?
I think it's to dig in the archives.
Although the team is satisfied with the data they have added to the historical records of this wreck, they're disappointed that their information has been inconclusive and the wreck remains a mystery. Nevertheless, for the sea hunters, visiting this site and diving this fascinating shipwreck is its own reward. But then, things take a sudden and dramatic turn. Out of nowhere, and to everyone's great surprise, a long-hidden clue, perhaps the final piece of the puzzle, unexpectedly emerges.
Finally, we get a call from a gentleman here in Paul River that's doing some work, looking in the old mill archives, and lo and behold, he contacts us. He says, I've been looking through some old filing cabinets, been gathering dust down in the basement, and I have this little clip here of telegrams mentioning this vessel called the Malahat. Do you know anything about it? And I said, my God, do I know about it? I said, we've been looking for this for so long. And as it happens, here it is, like this telegram dated November 9, 1945, and it's to attention Mr. D.A. Evans. Breakwater hulk Malahat will be at Paul River 12:30 p.m. today. Captain has been advised to get tie-up instruction from Powell. Would you please pass this information on to Scholar, signed George O'Brien. And here it is, the actual document that ties this mystery wreck in Powell River, puts a name on the hull as the Malahat. That was just so satisfying when we finally received this. It just tied the whole story together.
In underwater archaeology, you're always looking for a smoking gun to identify a ship. A bell, a nameplate, something that says, yes, this is it. Oftentimes, in the absence of that type of concise documentation, you're left with some element of doubt. You match everything up scientifically, bit by bit. Maybe it's the right size, the right shape, and in the right place, and all the pieces come together, and you feel, yes, this is it. But you never know for certain. In the case of the wreck at Powell River, though, the dives and the discovery of the telegram found in the basement archives clearly stated that Malahat had not come to an end at Barkley Sound, but had been brought around to Powell River where it had been sunk. That's all we needed. That was the smoking gun. That piece of paper put Malahat exactly at Powell River and showed us that the vessel on the bottom that had matched in every other circumstance was indeed Malahat, the Queen of Rum Row. The history books were wrong, and thanks to archaeology and a fortunate discovery in the archives, we'd put the final piece of the puzzle together and had closed the book with new information that clearly said this was the end of the fabled Malahat.